he don't run. So after we come here, and then maybe this is the one of the most difficult track season. You know, here we don't have any clear reference on braking and something like this. You know, have to know where and how you put the bike on the lean angle, how to use the throttle on the corner and everything. So you need laps. And then Friday was not so really good. At the morning was raining, and the evening starts to the first.
He's looked good as well. A little bit of a fuel issue, I believe, at the end of practice yesterday, but he's into Q2. How's he feeling this weekend?
I think for Jacob it's like to stay like in a home GP is like an extra motivation for him. So happy to hear or to see that Jacob is going fast this week. So let's see if we can improve a little bit more, and then tomorrow we'll stay in the front group fighting to be in front.
Result last time out for Jacob, I guess he took a lot of confidence from that in Indonesia.
Yeah, it's much more. It looks like when you are at home, it's much better to stay, you know, around there. This is your country, this is your track, and I think this is the extra motivation that he has.
Hector, thanks for your time and good luck with Jacob in Q2.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks as well to Hector Tissot on the Tech 3 squad, giving us a bit of an update on home hero Jacob Ralston. Result in Moto3 last time out with a brilliant 5th place, and as crazy as it sounds, without a ride for 2026 as well. He said he's going out there this weekend with the hope of trying to embarrass a few teams that haven't offered him his seat. That's kind of the motivation, and obviously it's lighting the fire underneath him, or it has been over the last couple of weekends. Let's see how the number 12 gets on. We just saw other home hero Joel Kelso prepping up for this weekend. Kelso's been on a brilliant recent run of qualifying results. He's been in the front row in each of the last 4 Grand Prix, and he would love nothing more to keep that run going here this weekend in front of his home fans.
Just in practice this morning, free practice 2 was Kelso on a 1:34.985, which only Darren Almanza has beaten so far this weekend. Almanza was the first rider you saw on your screens when the broadcast began. That's because he has been the fastest rider of the weekend so far. Or should we add the asterisk, Neil, fastest when he's been upright?
Yes, I think that's a nice little caveat that you've added there, because David Almanza
hasn't been upright much.
He hasn't. I think it's 3 crashes he's had, isn't it, so far in the 3 sessions so far. It's been that kind of season, though, hasn't it, for David Almanza? Certainly lots of speed and lots of potential, but still yet to properly get the result you feel that potential deserves. Still yet to score a podium, of course, as well in this 2025 season. And, well, if there's any chance for him to do it, I think this is probably one of the best chances, because it wasn't just him that was fast yesterday afternoon. It 1-2 for the Leopard Honda Racing boys of Almanza and Adrian Fernandez in second. Honda's looking really, really strong here this weekend.
Slightly more Honda-friendly track layouts too on this Moto3 calendar. Not an awful lot of penny braking and acceleration. More of a fast-flowing venue, this. It's about as fast-flowing as it comes in Moto3, which could well suit the Hondas. But rather fittingly, this Moto3 qualifying session will be led out onto the racetrack by the new world champion, Jose Antonio Rueda on the 99, who has still some records to chase in the remainder of this season. 9 victories already this season, and with the 4 remaining Grand Prix that we have in the remainder of this season, he would go second all time for most victories in a lightweight class season, only behind last year's record breaker David Alonso. He needs 2 more in the races that remain to tie Valentino Rossi, the previous record holder. Of course, took 11 victories on his way to the 1997 125cc world title, and rather fitting in many respects that Rueda clinched the world championship with a victory where he dodged quite a lot of chaos in Lombok.
Yeah, and I think that race in Indonesia really underlined just the massive step forward that Rueda has made this year. We knew he was really, really fast from the first year that he came into the World Championship back in 2023. He stepped up as the reigning Red Bull Rookies Cup champion and the Junior GP champion. And we saw quite a raw talent last year. I think he was as fast as anyone, but just didn't really have the aggression or the racecraft to benefit in those big wider duels. And then with him, he's just managed to find that, put it right completely. He's added a real steel to his game, real kind of toughness and willingness to do battle. And we saw that in Indonesia, obviously, when he was outside the top 10, wasn't he, in the first couple of laps. How he battled through was really quite something. I'd say he got a little bit fortunate with the collision between Adrian Fernandez and David Munoz up ahead, which eventually brought out the red flags, and He went back a lap, which gave him the win, but still, I think that recovery, running 12th, 13th he was in the first lap, up to the winning position, was worthy of victory yet again. Rueda, certainly one of the most talented riders that's come through the Moto3 World Championship in the last couple of years. His ability to manage tyres, I think, is really going to set him apart in Moto2 when he steps up next year with the Iron squad. And yeah, 9 wins, 13 podiums from 18 races, that really speaks for itself. Rueda, absolutely deserving world champion in 2025.
Big pair of back-to-back races that we saw last time out. Indonesia and Japan are both underlying the maturity of Rueda these days. Really kept his head in Japan when that rain was falling before coming back through in the latter stages to take what was proved to be a crucial second place. He's all on his own at the front of the field. He's not interested in any kind of slipstreaming or games and tactics with the rest of the field. He's right up away at the front of the field. I guess he's a rider with very little pressure on his shoulders right now.
Yeah. A couple of the really fast-flowing tracks that we've visited in 2025 so far, Rueda has been a class apart. You think back to Jerez, where he was easily the class of the field on that particular day. You think back to Silverstone as well, where he started from the back of the group and still managed to come through and win. When he can get into that space, Brno is another example as well. When he can get into that space with no one ahead of him and put his rhythm down, he is very, very hard to stop indeed. And looking through the past couple of Moto3 races here, obviously we've had some absolutely insane Moto3 races on the island in years gone by. You think back to 2018, where I think 2 seconds covered the top 14 riders at the end of the race. One of the craziest and scariest races I've been, completely honest, that I've ever seen on that particular occasion. But the last 2 dry Moto3 races that we've had here, 2022 and 2024, Lucas Guevara and David Alonso were breakaway winners on both occasions, as Rueda sets a really early mark, and that is the fastest weekend we've seen so far, the fastest ever Moto3 lap time we've seen here at Phillip Island.
We'll see that all-time lap record broken a lot, I think, in this qualifying session due to the lack of dry running, as we covered in Q1. Joel Kelso already going very well as Ralston goes onto the front row early on, although the 36.9 is not going to cut the mustard when this session is completed. Look at this posse of riders coming across the line. Quiles onto the front row in second place. Last time we saw him this morning, he was on his knees at the gravel trap at the hay shed.
Yeah, massive fast crash for the number.
Running we've had, Kelso has been quick at all stages. Of course, did take a podium here. Through turn 11, we've only got the final corner through the first sector on the back of his equal best result in Moto3. A second place in Indonesia last time out. His first podium since he broke his leg at Assen. Rueda returns to pole position. He's now down to a 34.4.
Yeah, you can just see Rueda in his rhythm now, probably just going to continue getting faster as this session progresses. A couple of real impressive performances so far in this session. Nepa up there in 4th. Martin Morelli in 5th has come through Q1 and set a brilliant lap time on his first flying lap there. Lunetta improves to go up into 7th position. Good stuff from him. Cormac Buchanan goes into 4th, and Kyle Kurosato now jumps into 4th as well. So good stuff from the Japanese rider.
So KTM in front row. Honda, your second row at the moment. We're following Patelli, who came to Q1. He goes into 10th place. Esteban onto the front row of the grid on the 78 Aspar bike. Just to explain why he's here, of all things, Dennis Foggia diagnosed with pneumonia before this Grand Prix. He didn't want to add hypothermia to that here in Phillip Island, so he's out through illness.
There's one track that you don't want to come to with pneumonia. It probably is Phillip Island, and some of the conditions that we've had in the mornings so far during this Grand Prix. But let's hope that Dennis Foggia is recovering back in Europe. It's a bit of a moment for recently crowned world champion. It's indeed down through turn number 3. That's turn number 2, actually, coming through the southern loop for the number 99. So Rueda, didn't he have a moment there this morning as well?
He's had a few moments this weekend. Led a Grand Prix here, led a lot of it back in 2023 before he crashed out of a comfortable lead in wet conditions. the moment, he's the leading Leopard competitor, Almanza. Rather surprising to see him down in P15.
Yeah, in the box as well. But a brilliant start to the session for the young Spanish rider.
So who we also should point out to you does have a long lap penalty to serve in tomorrow's Australian Grand Prix. He was the cause of a three-rider crash which took out Alvaro Carpe and Tayo Purasato late in Indonesia last weekend. So whatever he does in qualifying, he's going to be coming through the long lap penalty loop this weekend. Feel like in all three classes, that long lap penalty loop is going to play a key role in the three winners this weekend.
That's a very fair point. Once again, in the Moto3 qualifying section, we're seeing a really poor start to the session for Angel Piqueras. Piqueras currently second in the championship. He needs to watch out over his shoulder. There's just 14 points of difference between himself and Max Quiles in third. It's down in 18th. How many times this season have we seen this, Lewis, where we're really leaving it, or he's really leaving it until the last couple of minutes in Q2 to jump up the order? He does like to live a little dangerously.
18 points is not a big advantage at all, is it, with 4 rounds to go? Certainly the form that Quiles is in. Quiles is proving a little leery in his various adventures. See a little bit of frustration building here for Adrian Fernandez too. It's not a happy camp at the moment down at Leopard Honda after ending yesterday 1 and 2. At the moment, it's all getting a bit fraught down there in the blue cap.
Certainly is. They've had some really happy times here. Trying near one his World Championship for that squad on this circuit in 2017. Lorenzo Dalla Porta repeated that feat at this circuit in 2019. Since then, since we've come back after the pandemic, it has been TM show with Guevara, Onchuk and Alonso in almost 3 seasons. It's Quiles who was going to be wiped on by one of his mechanics. I'm not sure what was going on there. Something maybe with his leathers that wasn't quite of comfort. Quiles was, he's at 5th place. You have to say Quiles for his first time at this track. As you said, he's been a bit leery. It's been a bit scary watching him at times. Obviously that huge crash down at the hay shed this morning, but for him to be so fast on his first visit to Phillip Island, as you say, one of the most fearsome tracks that we visit on the entire calendar, and it has been yet again just another very, very impressive weekend. Quiles just takes next to no time whatsoever to get up to speed in the new circuit, and in such challenging conditions as well. Yesterday was blustery, windy, wet on occasion too. Quiles was right there among the fastest riders at the end of play. He was 8th yesterday, but still throwing it around. Absolutely no fear that way.
Well, they're working hard here on the 2 Leopard Hondas. Both of them currently still sat in the pits with 2 rather impatient-looking riders watching on. Adrian Fernandez on the left, David Almanza to the right. So Yamanaka is waiting to rejoin the fray. He's currently standing in the pits. His teammate Angel Piqueras hasn't got the luxury really of waiting around. He's already gone back out. It looks as if Almanza is going to be back up and running shortly in this Q2 session. The Leopard Honda fights into life, and Fernandez heads on his way, of course, going in search of back-to-back pole positions for the first time in his career.
Be a surprise to see Fernandez off the front row after what we've seen so far this weekend. To be frank, it looks as though the likes of Rueda also just stepped it up ever so slightly from yesterday. Just hearing on our headsets from Elliot down in Pitley, and he thinks it's more of a tactical move that Fernandez is waiting some minutes to go out. It on maybe he's trying to make sure he avoids some of the traffic that could be latching onto the back of David Almanza here.
Looking to join the field, I guess, as they start their flying lap. You've got to keep yourself well out of the way, though, David, as the field now comes through. Yamanaka, Purasato, Ralston, Nepper and Mineta have all just completed out laps and all found themselves balked there into the southern loop. Adrian Fernandez now leaves the pit lane, so he should have enough time for 2 flying laps.
Absolutely should. We've seen a real return to form for Stefano Nepper, who has been hot and cold for so much of this year. Looks as though Stefano will be struggling to find a place on the Moto3 grid next year. But we saw some signs of him returning to form last weekend, or last time out, I should say, in Indonesia. 9th place for him, and he was just off the podium here last year. Came very, very close to his first ever Moto3 podium. He's looking good in qualifying now.
With 2 long laps, of course, during that course as well for Nepper. Still yet to stand on a Grand Prix podium after 135 attempts. Of course, we should point out, confirmation of the rider replacing him at 6:58 scored to quarter Honda next year. Casey O'Gorman, who did impress on his 2 substitute appearances, will be a full-time rider in Moto3 next season. But look at Joel Kelso's sector times. He's potentially going to be challenging a 1:33 here in this Q2 session. Rueda's going to extend his advantage up to 4:10 now, 34, 1:47 for the world champion. But he is coming under threat with plenty of Aussie fans cheering Kelso on. He's just got the final corner to go. He's 66, putting it all on the line, surely not lacking motivation and not lacking support here at Phillip Island. His teammate Vitelli has the best view, potentially the fastest ever lap of Moto3 here in Phillip Island. Kelso on the 1:34.056 takes provisional pole.
Good stuff from Joel Kelso, and doing it without a slipstream up ahead. That is a sign of real confidence. The MTX squad looking on, very happy on pit wall. Kelso and Rueda, they are in a class of their own as it stands in this session so far.
I think he did get a toe to start the lap. Vitelli did start his lap before Kelso. Kelso, of course, finished it before Vitelli, so perhaps some team tactics at MTA slipstream to start the lap worked out for Joel Kelso, who leads by just under 1/10 of a second. It worked out actually for both of the MTA riders. Kelso and Vitelli are both on the front row of the grid as it stands at the moment, as Kelso is coming our way. He's just outside our commentary box window now as he goes the long way around Miller hairpin.
That was a nice toe that he gave Bertelli around the first half of this lap, although Bertelli has eased off. Brilliant stuff from the pair of them as Max Giles comes around Siberia just underneath Bertelli there. But what a return that would be for the Italian, just 3 races into his injury return. If he put it back on the front row, that really would be saying something. As we see some fast lap times coming in here. Who is going fast? We've got Ralston within 0.3 of a second. Could Ralston put it on the front row here with this particular lap time? Lunetta is also flying just behind him, although I don't think there'll be trouble in the top 2.
Aaron Carpe has just got into 4th position ahead of Esteban, so that's Monquiles now off the second row. Of course, don't expect too much just yet for the Leopard Hondas. They're just on their first run, or first lap of the track. They'll be pushing hard on lap 2. Lunetta, though, if he can hold that 1/4 of a second, he could move on to the front row of the grid with this, off the back of his second place in Indonesia. And he's got Furusato and Yamanaka punching ahead and air for him as he goes across the line. A 34.281 for Lunetta, goes just ahead of Furusato. It's Honda's 3rd and 4th now.
Honda's showing pretty well in this qualifying session, as we expected, but not the Hondas that we expected, because Adrian Fernandez is down in 8th. David Almanza still in 18th, so the Leopard bikes still have some serious work to do.
45 seconds to go. The Aussie fans, those that have got MotoGP apps next to them, as Guido Pini's gone down at Miller hairpin. Pini currently in 10th place. Anyone with a live timing app around this Phillip Island circuit are just looking at their apps, hoping that no red sectors are going to show up on their phones. At the moment, none are. It's Carpe who's setting personal best, but he's back in 6th spot. Almanza is pushing on. Quiles also with a personal best through the first sector, but they've got a 1/4 of a second to make up.
Doesn't look like Carpe is going to be doing anything on this particular lap. You can see Almanza half a second off, halfway round. It's just not really going to plan for either of the Leopard Honda runners. You see Carpe pulling out his teammate Rueda is 1.5 seconds off, so Rueda is going to be second at best in this session, but we're going to look a bit further down the field to see what is happening. As it stands, Almanza is the only rider on course to improve on his lap time, and he's only on course to go into 17th place. So I think we can say Joel Kelso has secured a famous home pole position.
Looking good, isn't it? Looking very good, as Nepa's now getting held up here by David Almanza through the final corner. Nepa could potentially get himself onto the 2nd or 3rd row with this, with the slipstream of Almanza leading him towards the line. 22 ahead of 82. Almanza only goes up to 17th place. That's a big disappointment for him. Stefano Nepa, though, into the top 10 on the grid. His best qualifying since the first race of the season when he was on the front row in Buriram earlier on in the season. Lunetta then takes 3rd. The world champion Jose Antonio Rueda starts 2nd, but they can start the celebrations in the grandstands at Phillip Island. The beers are on Joel Kelso tonight. He is on pole position for his home Grand Prix.
Fantastic stuff from Joel Kelso, the 5th race in succession that the young Aussie has put it on the front row of the grid. That's actually his first pole position of this season so far. Impressive stuff from Kelso, and he will certainly be gunning for ultimate honours tomorrow. Came into this weekend high on confidence, having led each of the last 3 Grand Prix at some point. He set himself up perfectly for a real attack on a maiden Moto3 victory tomorrow. You can see there, some 66 flags doing the the lines in the grandstands here.
First Australian ever to take a lightweight class pole position in Australia. History made by Joel Kelso out of Phillip Island. The Aussies absolutely love that. Of course, the major job comes tomorrow, and Kelso, of course, having already stood on a Phillip Island podium, he would dearly want to convert that into a first Moto3 victory. Of course, he's had a couple of second places already this season. It's been a very successful run of results for Kelso, 3 podiums. And of course, in terms of the World Championship, he's in 5th place overall, could potentially still get himself into that battle for second in the championship if results well and truly go his way here this weekend. But all his thoughts will be for now are, well, 2 things. The Tissot watch that's about to be put around his wrist, and the prospect of leading off his home Grand Prix tomorrow.
Absolutely. Kelso didn't quite get his qualifying right at this round 1 year ago, and that really cost him in the race as he got a bit beaten up back in the pack. And failed to score a top 10 result, but he has put that right this time. And to go head-to-head with the recently crowned world champion Jose Antonio Rueda at a track that really suits Rueda's riding style, and to come out on top, that really is some doing. Fantastic stuff from Joel Kelso, fantastic stuff from the Level Up MTA squad. We're going to pass on to Elliot, who's in pit lane with their team boss, Alessandro Tanucci.
Yeah, he says, I'm just chasing him round part firmly. Alessandro, top job. Your boy's doing it on pole position for his home Grand Prix. How's he feeling? How are you feeling, more importantly?
Fantastic. He's very strong. So we're really happy and ready for tomorrow.
Good luck.
Thank you.
He's just about caught his breath as Alessandro Tanucci, as David Almanza there, rather forlorn, slumped into his seat. Fastest yesterday, slowest in this Q2 session. Mauro Carpe, who was getting a little hot under the collar early on with some of the tactics in that Q2 session. He'll still start on the second row of the grid. So for the 83, back-to-back second row starts for him. And without wanting to give away too much of what we've seen already today across our Grand Prix classes, over to you, Senna Aegis, from a front row point of view.
The Australians have delivered so far at Phillip Island at their home Grand Prix this weekend. We won't give too much away with regards to MotoGP, but Jack Miller, well, yeah, certainly give everyone here at the island something to shout about. As Adrian Fernandez looks on, he'll be very disappointed with 8th place, but not a total disaster on the 3rd row of the grid. Kelso comes in, he's 34.056, 1.3 seconds faster than last year's previous Moto3 lap record. They were absolutely flying in that session, completely obliterated the lap record as well. Kelso and Rueda head and shoulders above the rest in that Q2.
There's another rider who will be eyeing a maiden Moto3 victory tomorrow, although it might be a crowd-pleasing one if he does it. But Tyler Parasato lines up in 4th place. And that's his best qualifying of 2025, so congratulations to Tayo. To carry him on his shoulders to the front row of the grid tomorrow. There is Alessandro Tanucci just congratulating Joel Kelso. Of course, he's departing that team for next season. He's off to MLAP Honda for next year. Naranjito is the nickname. Anyone who can translate Spanish will understand what that nickname is in reference to.
We just saw a little flash of his mum, who's here this weekend. I think his sister as well has driven all the way down from Darwin in the north of Australia. Something like 3,000 kilometres they've made, driving for 3 days to come down to see her brother at his home Grand Prix. And yeah, remarkable stuff from Kelso. As since he got his future step in Misano, basically he's been right back at the top end of the Moto3 class after a tricky middle part of the year. He has very much been back to his best, and I think we're about to hear from him down in Park Fermé.
This one. Cannot wait for this one. It's only the 2nd pole position of Joel Kelso's career. What better place to do it? The Australian is on pole at the Australian Grand Prix. Joel Kelso, who's just sharing a word there with Casey Stoner, of course, an Aussie legend who's had many a pole position over the course of his career in Moto3. MotoGP Hall of Famer, 2-time MotoGP World Champion. Just discussing the conditions there. I'm a little reluctant to throw down to Park Fermé and Elliot while they're having a chat. Joel Kelso, your Aussie pole sitter, speaking now to her.
Oh, congratulations, what a lap. Talkers 3, and you are the first Australian to ever put it on pole in Moto3 in Australia. That must sound pretty cool.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, I seen Miller chuck it on the front row before, so I have to follow it up for the for the Aussies out there and now get pole and ready to rumble tomorrow. I think we're in the best conditions. To be honest, mate, these are the best conditions you're ever going to get for Phillip. And to be honest, even this morning I wanted that lap record, so I knew today in qualifying I had to really send it out there to get that lap record and obviously a pole. Also, me and my teammate did some good work together, which was really great. Getting the slipstream down the main straight is what I needed, just that little bit extra, a 1 or 2 tenths that helped, and yeah, it was a hell of a lot easier.
Top job. Good luck for tomorrow.
Cheers, mate.
2024 in Thailand, Phillip Island in 2025. Looking big for Joel Kelso in front of his home fans. Incredible stuff, and he is ready to rumble, as he said. Tomorrow he will be gunning for his first ever Moto3 victory after an epic performance in qualifying. The qualifying of his life so far, you would have to say.
The words win it or bin it are often thrown around in Grand Prix circles, aren't they? But I think we can all totally excuse Joel Kelso if he's got that kind of mindset tomorrow. He'll be going for gold. No question about that tomorrow. He has done the Aussie fans proud on this Super Saturday. We convert that into what will be a fairy tale victory in Moto3 tomorrow. Of course, Aussies have won here before in Moto3. Jack Miller himself, who Joel referenced there in his interview. Miller victorious here back in 2014. There must be a few better feelings as an Australian to take pole position in Phillip Island and then being congratulated by Casey Stoner, no less. Joel Kelso on pole for the Australian Grand Prix. As an Aussie, it gets no better than that, or potentially the only thing that is better comes tomorrow. Jose Antonio Reina, the world champion, starts right next to him in second. Luca Lanetta on the front row of the grid in third. His first front row since Aragon. Morosato's best of the year, fourth. Patelli fifth from Carpe. Esteban, the super sub at Aspar, seventh, ahead of Andrew Fernandez and Max Quiles. Guido Pini, who crashed at turn 4, 10th from Nepa, Morelli, Ralston and Piqueras, down in 14th place. Nicola Carraro, 15th from Yamanaki Buchanan, and the frustrated Almanza, fastest yesterday but slowest in Q2. Ryan Oriate on his debut, 19th from O'Shea Ogden, Peroni, Dekvila, Mugli, Tachiko Boazri and Ricky Rossi. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Pole, pole, pole for Joel Kelso. Can he complete the job tomorrow? Tune in at midday to find out. Kelso on pole in Moto3. Can the Aussie feel good story continue in Moto2? Their qualifying sessions come up next.